I'd like to thank you for inviting me on the show. It's such an honour to be here, and I'd just like to say that when I'm not playing Xbox with my mate Thor, I really like to listen to my favourite podcast, Pop Culture Pasta. Hey, Doug! Doug! Oh, that's right, Doug's dead.
Pop Culture Pastor.
So, if they made Back to the Future today, like if Back to the Future was a movie they were making and it came out today, the year that Marty would go back to in the past, if it was the same amount of years from when that movie came out, would be 1992.
Ew.
Yeah, right? Doesn't that blow your mind?
A little bit. I thought you were going to ask me what vehicle they would use, but ew.
The DeLorean's iconic. I mean, the coolest part about them using the DeLorean in Back to the Future is it was like such an oddity even back then. Like it was clearly like a sporty type car for rich people, but it was an oddity. Like if you were rich and really cared about your image, you had a Ferrari. Like Magnum drove a Ferrari.
Yeah.
You had a Lambo. So, you know, like Miami Vice, they had the Lambo. And then there was the DeLorean, which only came in like sterling silver, like unpainted. It was just really, it was an oddity.
I think Tesla would be it.
Yeah, Tesla would be a Tesla 5 to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Had the same kind of image as the DeLorean did. Like,
but then it survived where the DeLorean died.
yeah, it did. Although I saw a DeLorean, man, this has been probably 6 months to a year ago in Wichita, of all places. And I did that thing that's probably really annoying for people that have a DeLorean, like because it was summer and windows were down. I was like, 1.21 gigawatts! Great Scott! And he probably rolled his eyes and rolled up his window, but I get excited. I mean, how often do you see a DeLorean driving around these days?
Never.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Never saw one as a kid, except on TV.
Okay, so this is even more amazing. One time, and I don't know what was happening. I don't know if they were going to a convention or what, but I'm guessing this is sometime in the early 90s because I might have been a teenager. But we were like on a highway, like I-70, like we were on a vacation, and we passed in a row. They were traveling together, clearly. We passed the DeLorean, a General Lee. Like, it was a General Lee. It was painted up like it. And Kit from Knight Rider. Like, it was like they were all traveling to some movie convention thing or something. Comic-Con wasn't really like it is now yet.
Yeah.
So, otherwise, you saw that today, you'd be like, oh, they must be heading for some big Comic-Con. But they would probably trailer them in now. You don't even drive those. But they were just driving down the highway randomly, and it wasn't the Dukes. They weren't in the General Lee. It was some random. And I was like, "You stole Bo Duke's car, man. That's not cool."
Oh, those Duke boys!
Look like those Duke boys lost their car. Bow, bow, bow. Man, you're too young for that.
No, I'm not.
You're too young for when it was really on, though. You saw it syndicated.
Anything was syndicated by the time I came around. So, yes, that is where my knowledge comes from.
Man,
syndication.
When I was a little kid, you couldn't beat Dukes of Hazzard. Waylon Jennings, come on with the theme song. Doom, 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 doom. Just the good old boys, never meaning no harm. The law in this the day they were born. Making their way. I mean, the only way they know.
I don't know how they got him to not only sing the song but then narrate the whole show.
That was the amazing part because, like, you knew you'd be in some like really action oriented part of the episode, and they would like leap. Or they would be in some dire situation and they would freeze frame, and then Waylon would come out and go, look like those Duke boys are in it now. And then it would go to commercial. You'd be like, what?
Yeah. So
I can't really explain to kids nowadays, like just how awesome that was. I mean, we didn't have all the streaming entertainment you guys had. I mean,
I didn't have streaming.
Yeah. Friday at 7:00, man. We just had to be in front of a TV, so we watched the Dukes.
But don't watch Duke basketball.
Yeah, that's just a general rule. Yeah. Although, do we still hate Duke if Coach K's gone?
I think so.
Still? Okay.
I think
you
so.
just let me know the how long that lasts.
Probably another 7 years.
Someone in the back's like, as long as Christian Leitner's alive. I'm just kidding. Christian Leitner, if you want to come on the pod, you're welcome anytime. This isn't a sports pod, so you know.
Yeah. Okay. Back to the pop culture.
Back to the pop culture. We got all off track because we started talking about the DeLorean, and the Back to the Future and how it would be 1992 he was going back to, and that's just weird. Was Calvin Klein even a thing in 1992?
I think so. But he would get to see the second Bulls championship. That's what I'm thinking.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. Welcome. This is Pop Culture Pastor. I'm Dave.
I'm Cody.
Cody's here. Mm-hmm. And we're here for another episode of the pod. We're up to episode 32. We really hit our stride in episode 32, Cody.
Just think of what episode 33 might be like.
I can hardly wait. We need to finish this one first. All right. We need to hit the news. Stranger Things, as we're recording this podcast, Stranger Things comes out on Friday. Is that right?
Yes, it does.
So as you're listening to this podcast, you're choosing to do this instead of watching Stranger Things.
Like 30 years in the making.
30, what?
I feel like that's how long I've waited in between this last season and the new season.
I am taken aback by how old the kids look. They look pretty old. I saw pictures of them at the premiere, and what's her name? Millie Bobby Brown. She looks like she's 30.
She might be now. I feel like I was in college.
The big thing that everybody's talking about is how long the episodes are.
Feature films.
Yeah. So let me look those up. What have you heard about the length?
So Millie said that she has been in 3 movies that were shorter than some of the episodes.
Yeah, this
at
is
the
amazing.
end of the season.
So basically, the first 7 episodes, what they're calling part 1, drop on Friday. Episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all settle in about an hour and 15 minutes, somewhere in
Not
between
bad.
an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay,
But that's kind of long for your regular serial episodes of a show on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Then episode 7, which is where they're ending this part 1, an hour and 38 minutes.
I'm here for it.
Then the final 2 episodes will drop on July 1st. The length of those episodes, episode 8, 1 hour and 25 minutes. And then get this, episode 9 is basically a movie by itself, 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Release the Snyder Cut again.
The Snyder Cut, stop it. It's going to be long. It's going to be like a fever dream. And at the end of it, you're going to be so tired you don't know if it was good or not. That's the Snyder Cut.
I watched it all in one setting, and
Can we just...
I assumed that it was really great. 'Cause
But you don't know. That's what cracks me up about the Snyder Cut is there's people out there that swear it's like the best superhero movie they've ever seen. And I'm just like, I think you're just delirious.
I think it would be the best superhero series I had ever seen if it was advertised as a series.
Yeah, you could have made, expounded on some of we get so many little subplot things that never really pay off.
The heroes of old.
Which is
that was
weird for
cool.
being 5 hours long.
Yeah. Could add another 5 hours.
Yeah.
And I would have been there for it.
I might have been there for it if it was a series. Absolutely.
All in one setting.
But I'm like, you don't know if that was that good.
So
How would you know?
I just know these things.
Side note to my side note, there are people complaining and making fun of the new Thor trailer that featured chunky Russell Crowe Zeus, and comparing it to the Snyder Cut Zeus, who is like all buff and awesome, I guess. And they were like, hey, this is why DC is better. And I'm just like, do you ever read mythology, or are you just going off comic books? Because Zeus in mythology is like the drunk granddad of Greek mythology.
He's a swan.
I'm honestly here for a Russell Crowe Zeus where he's acting all crazy.
That's just Russell Crowe being Russell Crowe.
To be honest, I'm just here for Russell Crowe. Anything to be Russell Crowe being Russell Crowe. Yeah, I'm in.
But no. So Stranger Things, I'm here for it. I'm kind of upset that the last 2 episodes I have to wait for, but I'll do it.
Well,
I'll do it.
Okay, but there's 7 episodes over an hour long. I think you'll be okay. There's so much content coming out. As this podcast drops, you've got 2 episodes of Kenobi. You've got the first 7 episodes of the last season of Stranger Things. Miss Marvel comes out like in a week and a half or something, like June 8th, something like that. I don't remember. And then by the time you're done watching all that, Thor will be here. I think you'll be okay.
You don't know my TV habits.
This is like the this next month and a half is the palate cleanser I needed after Multiverse of Madness.
I didn't need a palate cleanser.
Yeah, well, I did. The farther we get away from that movie, the less enthused I became.
I'm still where I was when I left the theater, both times.
Yeah. Well, let's not get into that conversation again. I feel like that'll just make me sad. Anyway, Stranger Things has a lot of time. I don't think I've ever seen a show do these 75 plus minute episodes that's this much. Remind me of Sherlock, but Sherlock would do like 4 episode seasons, you know?
Mm-hmm. By the way, that show had a phenomenal cast.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal.
Do you know the budget of this Stranger Things season was $30 million an episode? That's a lot of money.
So people complained when Elon submitted his financial claim for Twitter. Just think how much money was just spent to make Stranger Things. And the people that are like, oh, Elon could have fed this many people. I want those people to say Stranger Things could have fed this many people. Because literally, it's an absurd amount. At what point does it just become too much?
When do we start to feel guilty about our entertainment geekdom? I don't know.
That's a good question.
I mean, the Marvel movies make a lot of money, but I don't know. We need entertainment, man.
I know we do, but at what cost?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, if we wanted, we could say that about anything in a capitalist society, though.
$300 million.
Look, I'm not trying to get everyone to go all like, yeah, we need socialism, blah blah blah, because I'm a big believer. I'm a student of history, and frankly, nothing will work. They always say like, well, capitalism's better than socialism, or someone younger usually be like, socialism, we need socialism, it's better than capitalism, look what capitalism's done. I was like, capitalism didn't do anything, and socialism looks great on paper. The problem is us. We're the problem. People are greedy. That's why none of them work.
That's why Jurassic Park failed in a night. So,
speaking of Jurassic Park, let's move on to our next news item. That was a great segue. Well done.
I didn't even know it.
A big topic of conversation this week, I didn't see this coming, is the age difference between Laura Dern and Sam Neill's characters.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Given that Laura was just 23 when the movie was shot and Sam was 44. Okay. And people are talking about the age difference in this romance. Number one, did I miss something in that movie? Was there romance?
There was flirtation.
Yeah, but it was the kind of flirtation where you like go through a near-death experience with someone and there's like a closeness from that. They don't end up together. We know that canonically.
Yeah, well, but in the third one, they do talk about the feelings they had for each other. And at the beginning of the first one, you can sense that there's some tension.
Well, there might be tension because they did like each other. And well, let's just move on before we say what the big deal is. The big deal is people are like, I don't know if they're trying to be like, oh, this is canceled. Because of the age difference, but someone brought it up and said it was weird. Laura Dern referenced it in an interview in front of the Jurassic World Dominion movie coming out, and they discussed their age difference. So she was 23. Now that's the other thing. When I saw this movie and I was a teenager, I was old enough to like kind of get an idea for people's age. I would have never guessed she was 23 in that movie.
Ditto.
She acts and dresses like a 30-year-old in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's fine if you say she was a 23-year-old actress, but he doesn't appear to be like a 43-year-old in that movie, and she doesn't appear to be as young as a 23-year-old. Like, I would venture to guess that most people watching that movie just didn't feel any way about it.
Yeah, but it's weird that this is coming up, especially considering... like in Hollywood, there are a lot of age differences and like big ones such as that. So like, I don't know. And I mean, even in the everyday local yokel world, I know couples that have like 10 plus years between them. It's not uncommon.
Well, if we're being just completely honest, what I want to say is like, well, they're both adults.
Yeah, it's not like there was some weird grooming thing in Stockholm Syndrome or something like that going on. No, I mean, they're both adults, and you can say Hollywood should have cast either Sam younger or her older, but yeah, it happened 30 years ago. Yeah. Let's move on.
Says, Sam says in the interview, Laura was a tender age. I'm 20 years older than Laura, which at the time was a completely appropriate age difference for a leading man and lady. To which my response is, it's not appropriate now. I mean, think about it if older, like a 60-year-old man with a 40-year-old man. Think like Sean Connery when he was 60.
Mm-hmm.
Like he couldn't have played opposite with a 40-year-old today.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would seem completely normal to me.
And
George Clooney, like, who's he married to? Isn't she quite a bit younger than him?
Yeah. I was going to say, like, Jennifer Lawrence plays, like, older and older characters every movie she's in, it seems like. Like, there was a movie she was supposed to be, like, 40-something, and she was in her mid to late 20s. I mean... either cast your roles better and have age equality representation, I guess, or it's not really that big of a deal.
Here's where it got interesting. Laura Dern's comments. So Laura, who played Ellie Grant, or Ellie, what was her last name? Ellie Sattler.
Yeah.
Sam Neill was Alan Grant.
He was.
She said this. She said, it never occurred to me until I opened a magazine and there was an article called Old Geezers and Gals. And she said, people like Harrison Ford and Sean Connery acting with much younger people. And there I was on the list as for her character in Jurassic Park. She said her thoughts on the matter had evolved with time. She said, quote, well, it felt completely appropriate to fall in love with Sam Neill, which, like, yeah. Dude at 43 was attractive dude, looked younger than 43. She continued, it was only now when we returned in a moment of cultural awareness about the patriarchy that I was like, wow, we're not the same age? Cultural awareness about the patriarchy. Like, listen, I'm all for a discussion of the patriarchy historically, why it might not fit in the world we live in today. It's cultural ills. But when you fall in love with someone, you just love them and you choose to love them. That's not patriarchy. Older women fall in love with younger guys.
But you don't see that in the movies, and that's what I think her point is you don't see an older lady typically with a younger guy. It's an exception when you do.
Okay, I was about to rattle off some movies for you, but I would agree with that. It's an exception, but
because
isn't that an indication of what we like to see as human beings? The movie industry is only a mirror showing us what we're willing to pay for to see.
I didn't want to see all those movies that were about kids saving a post-apocalyptic world. That seemed weird to me.
What?
Like you're saying that what Hollywood makes is what we want to see.
What movies are you talking about?
Like Hunger Games, The Maze Runner.
Those movies made millions of dollars. Somebody wanted to see it.
I'm just saying, it's weird that all our hope has to go into these kids, like Red Dawn, but I'm supposed to take it seriously, where Red Dawn, I was like, oh, this is kind of funny. So...
Yeah, I don't know. It's
I'm just saying that
it's a weird place we're in where everything's got to be something, you know? Like we can't just look at Laura Dern, who seemed more mature and older as a 23-year-old acting in this movie. Like to me, if you'd have told me she was 23 in Jurassic Park, I'd have said, "Oh, she was acting up." Mm-hmm. She was clearly, her character was not meant to be even 23-year-olds back then were not like that. Okay. And he did not seem like a 43-year-old in that movie. I would have guessed mid-30s.
Yeah. Although I will say I do know someone that is a paleontologist, and I knew her when she was in her mid-20s, acting nothing like Laura Dern. Nothing.
Nothing. Jurassic Park, Spielberg, you lied to me. You played us. Next thing on the news list here, and it's like we can't go a week without talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, but it's so nutty. People my wife sends me TikToks. Like
or
my wife's
Facebook Reels.
My wife's really into this. Yeah, I get Reels and TikToks of Amber Heard doing fishy things in court. Like playing with her nose, and clearly she looks like she's doing drugs in the courtroom.
I'm more about what was the question that caused her to say my dog stepped on the bee and do a weird face.
Well, I mean, we talked about this last week, and it was just what we said it's still true that both these people are not normal. These are unnormal people.
I just feel bad for her dog that stepped on the bee.
Well, I feel bad. Yes, I feel bad for her dog. I feel bad for both of them, to be honest, because their lives are irrevocably changed now. Mm-hmm. Neither one of them are going to be or enjoy the role, the role in society they had before, which is Johnny Depp as beloved actor and Amber Heard as up-and-coming actress. Neither one of them are going to be in that place again. Mm-hmm. And this has shaped for the rest of their lives the way people are going to see them. And that's unfortunate because, as somebody who grew up in a broken family, a broken home, a child of divorce, it's just hard anyways. And luckily, they didn't have kids, but it's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The things I could have picked one of a number of things to talk about. There was every week there's just these wild headlines that come out of it. This week it was that Johnny Depp said he helped Amber Heard get her role in Aquaman, which apparently people were surprised by that. I just assumed, hey, isn't that how Hollywood works?
It's all about who you know.
Nothing against Amber Heard, but I would have assumed many young women would have been attracted to Johnny Depp for that reason. That was kind of just my assumption of how Hollywood was, that there were all these people that were just looking to climb a ladder and were willing to do anything to do it. Right? Isn't that the kind of the image we're given of Hollywood, that kind of grimy side of Hollywood?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what Amber Heard did. Maybe she loved Johnny Depp at one point.
Again, those two were cast as love interest in that weird vampire soap opera movie.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Oh, now you're going.
Were they in something together?
Yes, that's where they met.
Oh, okay. See, I don't know all the history. I haven't been really into this, but Johnny Depp was called back to the stand this week, and it had been implied earlier in the trial, but he just flat out said it. He said, I got her the job in Aquaman, but he also warned them. He warned them about her. That's what he said from the stand. But he said, I made a phone call, spoke to 3 upper echelon Warner executives. I can only say that ultimately she did get the job in the film when asked straight up if he got her the role. I curbed their worries to some degree. So he's implying that just Amber came with some concerns about her mental state as it was. Although this is a weird place for this, because if you believe what he's saying, you roll into this patriarchy stuff again, where if there's a conflict, the man just says the woman's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to just jump to that point and be like, oh, he's probably telling the truth. Who knows? Because they have such wildly different stories.
Okay, I fibbed. It wasn't during Dark Shadows they met. It was the film after it. It was the Rum Diary.
Yeah, I've never seen either one, so.
But Dark Shadows was so weird.
Well, it's based on an old TV show, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why I didn't see it, because I was like, well, I don't really care about the TV show, and so I'm not going to see this.
Well, you didn't miss out on much.
Okay, we need to talk about this is amazing. We're going to do an entire show on this in the next couple weeks, but we need to talk about Chip and Dale.
Rescue Rangers.
Yeah, I saw the most crazy take today.
You better not spoil anything for me. I will rampage.
You know what? Maybe we need to save it.
I will rampage like Quentin Jackson.
Because this dude, okay, so like someone with a bigger podcast than ours, made a claim about the plot of the movie and how it was an allegory for human trafficking, and I just don't. It's insane. It's an insane take, but we'll talk about it when we do the show on it.
Okay.
Because we're going to do that show in a couple weeks.
I plan on watching this movie within the next handful of days.
You should. You'll love it because you were a 90s kid.
And I watched the animated series.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So if you were a fan of the original show and you grew up in the 90s, you're going to love this movie. It is literally a love letter to the 90s.
Someone needed to make it, and someone finally did.
Okay. Michael Waldron, the writer of Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness, addressed the leak culture surrounding geek movies.
Okay, I'm here for it.
This era where a lot of content on YouTube and in podcasts is driven by this kind of like excessive seeking of leaks about plots of these movies that we're all excited about. First of all, are you here for leaks, or do you find yourself shying away from them?
Like, I know sometimes I'm here for them, as long as it's not like super revealing. If you told me 6 months ago, like Christian Bale is going to be in Thor, and you didn't tell me what character he was going to be, I'd be like, yeah, I'm here for it. Mm-hmm. But like once you reveal the character, then I've started to form opinions and well, I mean, like with Tom Cruise supposedly being Iron Man, I was like, I might be here for this.
Yeah, that's the kind of the dark side of leak culture is now that Marvel, especially MCU, Kevin Feige, he fights it. He fights it hard. In fact, they will put stuff in their trailers that it's not in the movie. They've done it with the last few now, where they intentionally mislead you with the trailer to try and mess up leak culture, and that it makes it fun. I'm a fan. I like to seek out leaks because I'm aware that, the accuracy of the leaks usually is not all that great. It's usually about, I'd say 30-70. They get about 30% right.
Toby and Andrew were in it.
Yeah. So I remember reading that leak long before that came out, but it was so long and they didn't put them in any of the trailers. There were actually a ton of the majority of people like, they're not in this movie. There were like real people with YouTube channels, millions of followers, and like, I heard from my source, they are not in this movie as little as like a week before it came out. And they were wrong. The guy I like, there's a guy that I like to watch, and he was like, no, if they're not in this movie, I'll shave my head. He was so sure that they were in this movie. He was just adamant the whole time. It's like, they're in this movie. And he was right.
It made sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I kind of dig leak culture. It's fun to see. Mostly it's about speculation. They hear a nugget of something and then they speculate. And I like that part because I'm a fan of comics. Mm-hmm. I like to speculate about, what story are they going to try and tell here? And
Secret Wars.
Look, I'm going to be honest. Sometimes, most of the time, it just only enhances my enjoyment of the movie. But if I'm being honest, I think it led to a little of my disappointment with Doctor Strange 2.
Yep. Although I was so here for Bruce Campbell, and they did not disappoint.
Yeah, that was good. Although I would have wanted more with Bruce. But mostly I wanted more with the Illuminati. When they show up, I don't want them to just be like a story device, which is kind of what they are in that movie. I want them to be an active part of the story, and they're not really that. They're fodder.
They are the worst Illuminati out of any universe, out of the multiverse. So
I would say hearing rumors of that happening before. Also, I was disappointed in who exactly made the cut of that universe's Illuminati, right? Mm-hmm. Because I heard other possibilities and I got excited for those, and then they didn't show up.
Thomas Cruise.
And instead we got, Captain Carter.
I was here for Peggy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate Captain Carter.
You leave Aunt Peggy alone.
Aunt Peggy. Why'd you make it weird? Anyways, so Michael Waldron, the writer of Doctor Strange 2, writer of the Loki series, he's like their guy right now at Marvel. He had thoughts on spoiler culture. He was speaking with Murphy's Multiverse. And Waldron explained that spoilers and behind-the-scene details about upcoming projects lead to interesting internet and movie culture. He says this, quote, "You can really, if you spend a lot of time online, you can come to think that if something is spoiled on a quarter of the internet, that suddenly the whole world knows. But they don't. It's these people who are actively seeking that out and who want to find that stuff. And if they want to find out, that means it's probably going to enhance their enjoyment of the movie." Now, I really appreciated that he said this because, like I said, I kind of seek out the leaks, and it does enhance my enjoyment. Like, I've thought about how Multiverse of Madness could go down and what story they could be possibly telling 100 different ways.
I was hoping it was all crashing in on itself. It didn't.
Give it time. I think that's where they're heading. They said incursion an awful lot.
This better be a thing.
It's going to be a thing. He continues, he says, and the people who don't want to find out, they probably aren't. It's like, I would be mad if it headline news, on CNN about who was in the Illuminati, but it wasn't. There's a spoiler warning. You know where you're going if you go to a spoiler website. It's what we do. It's the symbiotic nature of this stuff, and it just builds anticipation and excitement. I think it's cool. And I appreciated that. I like that he gets it. He gets it.
So I want to make, this is my $1 billion idea.
Oh.
So
right, hold on. Do I need to write this down?
You might.
Okay.
I want a feature on Twitter and Facebook where I can prevent posts about movies for a weekend. Because I will watch it within the weekend time. But Multiverse of Madness, I waited till Saturday to watch it. And I came across a couple of people that spoiled some small details, but I felt like it took away from my movie experience. And so if there was a way that you could key phrase and then blot that out and then have it all rush back in.
The hard part is before the movie comes out, yes, Michael Waldron is right. You really have to seek out spoilers, right? They generally don't just pop up. But if you don't see an heavily anticipated movie like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness on the day it comes out, then the next couple days, you don't want to be on social media.
Spoilers.
Because it can be spoiled with just like memes. So someone could put, they do these things now. I've noticed this with the Disney Plus show where they do the episode, episode 6 of Moon Knight in generic pictures or something like that. They do these memes where they show like some random thing that reminds you of something that happened in the episode. So like in the last episode of Moon Knight, when Giant Khonshu was fighting Giant, what's her name? Amit.
Yeah.
One of these memes had Moon Knight episode 7 in random thoughts or whatever. I can't remember how they put those memes, but it had a picture of Godzilla and Kong fighting, right? And if you're observant, you pick up on you can kind of guess what it is and be spoiled.
Because I remember they did that with Fat Thor.
Yeah.
That one was kind of funny.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an exception. But yeah, I'm glad that Michael Waldron gets it. Feige works pretty hard to keep the spoilers out of there, and he even so far as to put fake things in the trailers.
And give Tom Holland minimal amount of the script.
Yes. All right, man. We got to go to the lobby. It's time for us to go out to the lobby. We're going to answer some listener questions. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the lobby.
Okay, we are in the lobby now. We're in the lobby. We're getting our snacks. I get nachos. You get whatever weird candy you're all about.
Chocolate covered raisins.
You are so weird. Maybe a giant Coke. I'm a Mountain Dew guy.
Yeah, Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew.
Nerd Rope, maybe. I would get.
Nerd Rope. Yeah. Okay. Never had it, but sure.
It's delightful.
Sounds good. Anyways, we're out here to answer your questions. Every week we pose it to you on our social media. Ask us anything. And this is the place where we answer those questions right here in the lobby. First question comes from our friend Scott Patrick Dillon.
Familiar with him.
Springfield, Missouri. Holding it down there in Springfield. We have to ask him what coffee shop he works at so we can give him a shout out and tell people to go there. He says, so in Doctor Strange, we are introduced to the idea that dreams are windows into the realities of our alternative selves. I put a lot of thought into this already. That was one of the more intriguing things about the movie, that little nugget. What are some of the oddest dreams realities that these alternate Dave and Cody's experience? What are some of those dreams?
So I initially dismissed that notion in the movie real fast because
well, first of all, let's define this. Do you think it's only because the multiverse is breaking, or is this a just standing rule that there are always alternate versions of me out there, and that every time I dream, I'm getting a window into an alternate me?
For Marvel's sake, I would say it's you're getting a version of you.
Yeah, I think it's standing. I don't think it has to do with the multiverse breaking. I agree.
So within Cody's real world existence, there's people that do dreamscaping. That you become so cognitively aware that you kind of manifest and determine your dreams.
Is that like dream walking? Like a Scarlet Witch?
And so, I mean, definitely when I'm dreaming, there's times where I'm like, okay, let's redo this because I know I'm asleep. And my dream rewinds and different option happens, which is kind of weird. But I mean, usually alternate versions of me are falling off of things or losing their teeth. It's scary.
Yeah, boy, that's a weird. The teeth losing dream. That one's a weird one. I've had that one before.
Hate it.
So yeah, I don't think they're always windows into our alternate selves. My answer to that question, Scott, is I don't dream. I'm clearly a Nexus being. No, I haven't had a dream in a while, though. Maybe I just became a Nexus being, or maybe my alternate selves are all destined to die young. That's a scary thought.
Or maybe you're not getting enough deep sleep to get into the dream state.
That is quite possible. I do have sleep apnea. When I wear my mask, I do get better sleep, but often I'm not getting a lot of REM sleep if my allergies are bothering me and I can't use it. Can't breathe through my nose, which is like the whole issue. You got to be able to breathe through your nose because I'm not.
Yeah, so I think
that's a lot of information. I don't know if you wanted all that,
solved
Scott, but
your issue, Nexus being Dave.
I have had dreams. I remember in certain points of my life, I've been a heavy dreamer. Is that weird that there are portions of my life where I do dream a lot? I remember being a kid. Clearly, there was an alternate version kid me who ran away from a dinosaur on a road that clearly went through a forest and went in a circle. Like I was just going in circles. And then I thought I was far enough ahead of the dinosaur to relieve myself behind a tree. And then I woke up and wet the bed. That's the first time I've ever told anybody that, but it feels so refreshing to get that off my chest.
That was intense.
It was intense. And it turns out that was not alternate me at all. That was real me having a weird dream and having to go to the bathroom and not waking up in time. But hey, ease up on the jokes. I was like 4.
So, like the last dream I remember, alternate version me was a Viking. Now, is that because I'm watching the series Vikings right now?
Nope. No, there is an alternate version of you, I believe, that is living life as like a 13th century Viking.
I mean, quite literally, basically was Ivar the Boneless, but could stand and walk, but was just as ruthless.
I had a lot of dreams, like in my young puberty years, like 12, 13, 14, where I would fall in love with the new girl at school. Mm-hmm. Like totally random, not someone real. Like I had a lot of dreams that were like full of names I didn't recognize and faces I didn't recognize.
Experts say you have seen the face somewhere.
That's amazing because I had a lot of dreams like that with nondescript people, and I even felt like I wasn't myself. But a lot of them were the same. Like I'd meet some girl. And we would just enjoy hanging out together, and we would do stuff together. We'd read comics and watch movies, and and I must have really needed companionship back then because I had a lot of those dreams. And then the worst part was waking up because you wake up and be like, oh, I'm lonely again.
Did you ever accidentally blow up your neighbor's mom?
No, I did not.
So it wasn't because you were watching Better Off Dead.
No, but I did watch Better Off Dead a lot. A lot. What a great movie that was. So yeah, I'm a weird dreamer. My dreams tend to not be super fleshed out either. Like there's not a lot of detail. They're just like, like I said, like, oh, me and this girl watched movies and read comics together,
Yeah.
They tended to be very simplistic and repetitive. Like it would just be like a loop.
You were living the good life.
Yeah, it was. But those are hard dreams to have. They were hard dreams to have because when I woke up and realized that I was alone, then I was always sad. Like I'd be sad the whole day when I had a dream like that.
Danielle, start reading comic books.
I don't have those dreams anymore. Apparently, my need for companionship has been met.
Well, that's good.
The next questions come from David Allen.
Okay.
And he had lots of them.
Rapid fire.
Okay, ready? How do brown cows make chocolate milk?
God only knows.
Well, David, they don't. That's just a funny rhyme that we made up. But it'd be cool if they did.
So
I like chocolate milk.
That's a spoiler alert.
Here's something you may not know about me. I loved milk growing up. I just drank milk constantly. Like on a hot day, there was nothing better than getting home and getting a nice big cold glass of milk. And I would just drink it. Like I wanted milk more than I wanted pop as a kid. But now I can't drink it. My stomach can't handle it. Even like if I try to drink a lot of the lactose intolerant milk, that kind of upsets my stomach too.
Fun fact, hippopotamus milk is pink.
Really?
Yeah.
That is fun fact. Is it strawberry flavor?
That you would have to go to a zoo and find out.
Because if it's not strawberry flavor, that seems weird and I don't want any.
You probably don't want any.
I'm a little grossed out now, just so you know.
You're welcome.
David also asked, how many times does Something in the Way play in The Batman?
I have said this many times. About the same amount of times as Take My Breath Away and Highway to the Danger Zone play in Top Gun. I mean, literally, Top Gun's just like a music video for those two songs, and they just repeat.
I'm so excited to see the new Top Gun movie. I never thought I'd say that, but I'm so in. And the first time the Loggins comes on, I'm just going to go ballistic.
The first time I see Val Kilmer, I will be happy, and then...
That's right. You are a Val Kilmer honk. You
Yes.
love Val Kilmer.
I'm all for Iceman. Forget Maverick.
He'll always be Doc to me. Doc Holliday. That was his iconic role.
Indeed. He also made a good Jim Morrison.
Yes, he did. He did. David Allen wraps it all up. There's another... okay, wait, hold on. He says, is the Smallville Season 11 comic book any good?
I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. I couldn't even watch Smallville Season 10. I tried to. I watched the first couple episodes and I was like, nope. I never finished Smallville. One of my most beloved television shows, I couldn't actually finish watching it because I wasn't interested.
I have seen like 6 episodes. I am useless for you.
I mean, part of my love for watching that show was him as Superboy with his parents, Ma and Pa Kent. And once you get him away from that, he's just Superman, and I'm less interested, to be honest.
Does Pa get sucked up by a tornado?
He definitely dies. I don't remember how it happens, but he definitely dies. And that might be far before. I'm thinking maybe season 6.
Okay, because
John Schneider, Bo Duke is Clark's dad.
Christian actor
Yeah.
now.
Is he?
Yeah, kind of. He does the Hallmark Christian stuff.
That's not just because he's hard up for work.
I think it's partially because of that.
We'll just say he's a Christian. We'll say he's one of us. One of us. One of us. Anyways, I'm sorry, David. I haven't read the Smallville season 11 comic because I couldn't bring myself to watch all of Smallville season 10.
I can bring myself to watch past episode 6.
I'll do it. One of these days I'll do it. But now it feels weird when I see Chloe.
Yeah.
It just got weird. This is his main question, I think. This is the one that really we can dig into. Why do you think the MCU Iron Man movies are not that great when RDJ plays the character so well? Did we ever say that? Or is he just saying his opinion?
His opinion
Is that they're not that great. The Iron Man movies aren't that great.
I 100% agree with you. Because, I mean, literally, if you compare, like, the ones that have, I guess, so Thor, Captain America, MCU Spider-Man, they all have super iconic movies. And all Captain Americas seemingly are great. Thor, first one, and Ragnarok, amazing. Guardians, even, both are really great. But then you look back at Iron Man and you say, well, I mean, you know what? It started off the MCU, but
Yeah.
like you can't say, oh, this one was definitively amazing.
Okay, but let's take the movie by movie. I think Iron Man, the very first Marvel movie, gets a pass. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it has to do a lot of heavy lifting. There's no standard. There's no template. Jon Favreau really comes in, and he's like the perfect guy to do a movie like this because I think Jon Favreau is a good filmmaker. But I don't think he's going to give you anything that just stands out in its uniqueness and brilliance. He's just going to make you a good, solid movie. And in a lot of ways, all that first movie in the MCU has to do is tell you a good story, and that's it. And set up this kind of hero template in a way that all the other Marvel movies are going to kind of fit into. And so, like, I don't think comparing Iron Man to whatever the 30th movie in the MCU movies is really all that fair. Because I think the story progresses in such a way where, like, so if the first Marvel movie is Eternals and you get what's her name, the artsy director that did that, to do it, she can't make the version of the movie she wants to make, right? She can't do that artsy stuff. You have to tell a solid, just basic superhero story because it's the first one. So I think in a lot of ways, judging Iron Man by that metric maybe isn't fair. I think it's a good movie.
So I also think that Iron Man suffers because what has come out around it. Right before Iron Man comes out, The Dark Knight's out. So you have DC at peak DC-ness. And you are in the middle of the Nolan trilogy of movies. And so, like, Iron Man 1 and 2 is coming out around the time that Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises comes out. And both movies can tell a great story because Batman Begins told that basic generic, oh, here's how he became Batman.
Yeah,
but
that's actually a very good comparison. I think Batman Begins is comparable to Iron Man in a lot of ways.
But, like, how epic of performances you get in The Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, not just from Christian Bale, who plays Batman, but from the villains, Heath Ledger, Aaron Eckhart, and Tom Hardy. You also have iconic names like Morgan Freeman and Sir Michael Caine being in it. And I mean, those movies have been especially The Dark Knight, has been lifted up as the gold standard for superhero movies. And so Iron Man kind of gets overshadowed. And I think that once you can add all the other MCU pieces in, you can appreciate Iron Man, and especially once you have RDJ kind of as a catalyst within other franchises of the MCU, that you're like, oh man, he's great as Iron Man. He's the Tony Stark we need for the MCU. But those movies, like, they came out in a rough time, and they also, I still don't think they're that great. I mean, they're fun, but it's not something that I'm like, I must go back and rewatch this like 3 times.
I will say this too. I think the character himself and Robert Downey Jr., the actor himself, the story has to start Tony Stark off in this kind of dark place. I mean, the whole first movie, he's kind of in a dark place.
Oh, yeah.
And then through much of the second movie, he continues kind of in this darker place. And Robert Downey Jr. is a guy who becomes more entertaining when you put him in a group.
Yeah.
Because he interacts. It's the way he interacts that's so appealing. And therefore, Tony Stark is appealing when he's interacting with other characters. And especially when he's in a good place, when he's happy and kind of bubbly. And the first Iron Man is dark. Man, it's kind of dark, but you have to see his character go through that. And so, like, when I think about, like, the most iconic scenes in the first movie, I think of at the very beginning where he's in the Humvee with the military guys. That's, like, one of the few scenes in that movie where he gets to be, like, the Tony Stark we know and love. Where he's, like, joking around with the military. He's like, no pictures. No gang signs. I'm just kidding. Throw them up. Like, where he gets to be his version of Tony Stark. But I think that was just necessary part of the storytelling. So, again, I think Jon Favreau you're kind of hamstrung doing that first movie because you got to get him somewhere. And by the time we see him in the Avengers movies, he gets to be the fun. Even in Civil War, and as dark as the themes of some of those are, and he's dealing with how his parents died, he's still kind of fun on a lot of those scenes.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, you can tell he actually has compassion towards Captain, even though Captain's choosing the enemy side.
It's interesting how the sequels for a couple of those franchises are the ones that kind of falter. The second movie, I shouldn't say this, not the sequels, because Thor: The Dark World is a bit of a misstep. And Iron Man 2 is a bit of a misstep. Let me just be clear. I still enjoyed Iron Man 2.
I did not.
But it wasn't great. It wasn't great. And Iron Man 3, for me, was the best one out of all three of the Iron Man movies. And he's not even in the suit for most of the movie.
And the suit, which was indestructible, is now like you blow on it and it's exploding. But
So-
yeah, I enjoyed the third one the best.
So if I'm getting back to David's original question, David Allen from Orlando, I didn't mention that.
Oh, sweet. We have Florida people.
David and Rebecca, his wife, they both listen. Good folks. Why do you think the MCU Iron Man movies are not that great when RDJ played the character so well? I would say the character had to go through an arc where he doesn't really get to fully be the Tony Stark we know and love until Iron Man 3 and the Avengers movies.
Partially the arc, partially the movies that come out around it, aka the best trilogy of all time for comic book movies. And then I didn't care for the story in 1 or 2.
The interesting thing about 2 is there's a storyline in the comics where Tony Stark deals with his alcoholism. And I think, and this says, I haven't read this anywhere, they haven't said this, but I have a theory that Iron Man 2 was originally going to delve into that storyline much harder, because there's some interesting Easter eggs in it now that just come off as Easter eggs where they're kind of hinting at he has a problem, but they don't go into it. I believe there was actually a story where they went into it and they cut it all. It ended up on the cutting room floor. And that's maybe why the movie feels a bit uneven and weird.
It was weird.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe there's a version of Iron Man 2 in some closet somewhere, some film closet where he deals with this whole sub-story of him dealing with alcoholism.
It was Favreau the director on 2.
That's a good question. I believe he was, maybe.
Release the Favreau cut.
Release the Favreau cut! We're here for it. Also, releasing the Chip and Dale Rescue Ranger cut of Batman versus E.T. Yeah. By the way, that show's coming. We're going to talk about Rescue Rangers on a future pod.
I still need to watch it.
Oh my goodness, Cody, it's going to blow your
/ I grew up with Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
Well, then you're going to love it. You're going to absolutely love it. Hey, we're going to go head back into the main studio to continue with the main focus of this pod. But thanks for tuning into the lobby. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Now it's time to get to our main subject here on today's pod. We're going to talk about the best cameos ever.
This was kind of difficult for me.
Yeah, there's so many cameos. Are we just sticking to movies, or can we say TV cameos?
I had like 1 or 2 TV cameos.
Okay. I'll bring up the ones I remember when we get to that point.
It was difficult in regards to like sometimes I feel like you're guest starring. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
I would say it's only a cameo if it's one episode of like an ongoing series. If it's anything more than one episode, that's a story arc.
yeah,
That's not cameoing.
and like it just becomes difficult.
Yeah.
And even in movies, I'm like, how long can they be on the screen? I know it's supposed to be short, but like, is it 2 minutes? Is it 10 minutes? It was difficult.
So like, for instance, Spader on The Office. Mm-hmm. That's not a cameo.
No,
Because he's on a several episode arc. Or Will Ferrell. That's a several episode arc on The Office.
Jim Carrey cameo on The Office.
Yes, absolutely. That was a cameo. Right. I'm glad we agree on this definition.
Yes, because literally, okay, so I do have one that might throw it. John McCain on Parks and Rec. Or Joe Biden, because they
appear on multiple episodes.
Yes, but it's like for 5 seconds at a time.
Yeah, those are obvious cameos. I would just say yes, those are multiple cameos.
Okay, so we agree.
Yeah. Let's first talk about what we like in a cameo, because there's several different kinds of cameos. Cody, are you a fan of like seeking out the cameo? Like, do you just like it when there's someone in the background or someone shows up, like Peter Jackson puts himself in Lord of the Rings?
So with Alfred Hitchcock movies, I'm always looking for Alfred. And in one of his movies, he physically isn't in it, but he has like a neon light sign that is his silhouette that's in it. And the same thing with M. Night. Like, if you know a certain director does those things, then yeah, it becomes a game for me. Like, okay, where's M. Night? And then The Happening, you only hear his voice. See, I know too much about M. Night already.
Unhealthy fascination with an average filmmaker.
Like, when he's on, it's great. But when he's off, it is not so great.
I still like to watch The Happening just to laugh my way through it. It was like he wanted to make a story just built around, like, how can I put the most gruesome, ridiculous death scenes on screen?
And
it's like a Final Destination movie, except with worse plot.
Yeah.
And Marky Mark.
That movie, coupled with a couple others, made me feel like he limits the range of his actors.
Yeah, because Mark Wahlberg's bad in that movie.
Zoe Deschanel's rough in it. Mm-hmm. There's times within the prequel to Split.
The prequel to Split?
The movie before Split, that's in the same series with Bruce Willis.
Oh,
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable, yeah.
Yeah, finally came to me. At times, Bruce Willis feels limited in it. So,
yeah,
like,
I could go for that.
Yeah, there's just certain actors that I feel like, oh, we're going to be hindered. But that has nothing to do with today's topic.
No, not at all. Let's get back to cameos. I really like when a guy's brought in and he's like a part of the story. So I don't want him to just kind of walk across the screen in the background or show up, just in the background and you go, oh, that guy. I actually like one of the ones that pops into my head immediately is Will Ferrell in Wedding Crashers.
Yeah.
Where not only is it a great cameo scene, but he actually factors into the story. They've referred to his character earlier in the story as the originator of the Wedding Crasher rules. And then when he shows up, it's glorious because he's like a giant loser. He lives with his mom. Like the whole scene where he's talking with Owen Wilson, he keeps yelling at his mom, like, "Ma, meatloaf, we want it." It's such a crazy scene, but I dig cameos like that where they actually speak and they're in it. Mike Tyson in The Hangover. Comedies usually can come up with some great cameos.
What is the name of that movie? Zombieland.
Oh.
One of my favorite cameos.
If we're talking about no list of the best cameos of all time would be complete without mentioning Bill Murray in Zombieland. Which Zombieland is just one of those great movies anyway that's sort of a parody of like zombie genre stuff, but it like takes itself weirdly serious at times, but then it goes back to parody and being funny. And like all the actors, this is the opposite of M. Night, right? Mm-hmm. Like they get the most out of their actors. And I don't even know who did Zombieland, but it's like they're towing that line of serious, but we know this is a joke. And then by the time they get to Bill Murray, who's playing Bill Murray, which is another cameo thing that I really dig, when they play themselves. Oh, man. It's so great.
In which Woody Harrelson's character had been talking about Bill Murray the whole time.
He's such a big fan. And then the girl, it's Emma Stone's character, shoots him because he's acting like a zombie. The way he dies in that movie is so stinking funny. And then like they're all quiet and silent. And she just starts busting up laughing, even though Bill Murray's just died in their arms, essentially. And she's just like, he just gets me. That is a magnificent cameo. Like there are just these like upper echelon cameos. Another one that I had written down here besides that one of Will Ferrell was Neil Patrick Harris in Harold and Kumar.
Oh, I wasn't a big Harold and Kumar fan.
I wasn't either, but okay, so you got to understand, up to that point, Neil Patrick Harris was just Neil Patrick Harris. He was Doogie Howser.
He was.
I mean, clearly, like, don't get me wrong. Dude's clearly talented. I know he'd done some stuff on Broadway. He can sing. He can do all that. He's multi-talented. But when he appears in Harold and Kumar as the NPH, it's just this bonkers, wild, out of control celebrity. He's playing like this alternate version of himself that's just wild and out there. He's basically playing. Okay, so I think it leads to him getting his role in How I Met Your Mother, because he's basically playing a very overloaded, overstimulated version of Barney Stinson in the Harold and Kumar movie. I mean, he is just bonkers, except he goes by himself, Neil Patrick Harris. It's a wonderful cameo. And frankly, without that movie, you're right, is not much to write home about.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen it all the way through, to be honest.
You should give it another try.
That's bold.
It was, I mean, granted, I just like, this is going to sound weird because we're pastors and I'm a Christian, but I do have a soft spot for stoner comedies.
Yeah.
I kind of dig it. I just, it is what it is. I'm not espousing, like, I'm not, giving a tacit approval of that kind of lifestyle, but
I'm hearing you're giving your seal of approval.
No. I grew up with Cheech and Chong, though.
Yeah.
Like, I remember watching those movies as a kid. I mean, parents just didn't care what we were watching back in the 80s. So I just have a soft spot in my heart for stoner comedies.
So I did find another cameo that it is one of those you have to be looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
But Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. One Daniel Aykroyd.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. He does show up in that at the airport, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dan Aykroyd, right. He has his connection is he and Belushi were in like Spielberg's worst ever movie.
Yeah.
What's the name? Is that like called 1982 maybe? Is that the name of that movie?
Oh, I thought it was a different date, but yes, it's a date movie.
I could be very wrong. It's a bad movie. It's that bad. But yeah, terrible movie. But yeah, he shows up in Temple of Doom, which is great. Topher Grace showing up in Ocean's 11 as one of the young celebrities that Brad Pitt's character is playing poker with. Teaching poker. He's teaching him poker. That's a funny playing himself gag. Carl Weathers in Arrested Development.
Oh yeah. Interacting
with Tobias Funke. Another one playing himself. These are lower level ones though.
Zoolander.
Okay. So Zoolander, all in the same sequence, has two cameos that are world-class hilarious cameos. They're in the walk-off sequence, and one's Billy Zane, and the other one's Bowie.
And I'm here for Bowie.
I'm here for Billy Zane, too. Let's just be honest. I love me some Billy Zane. It's the best way is the way he refers to him, like Derek Zoolander. Okay, Billy Zane. So for some reason, people referring to someone by their first and last name just it hits me in all the right spots. Cody Haviland.
Yep. It would. David Rimbold.
That's right. That's my full Christian name. Thank you. I appreciate you using it. Yeah.
Pirates has a good cameo because
Few of them.
well, Johnny Depp based his whole character on one of the cameos.
Yes, famously based his character on Keith Richards.
Yes, and so Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, Keith Richards finally makes an appearance.
Now, Keanu Reeves plays himself in a cameo, and this is apparently so I have never seen Always Be My Maybe,
Oh, I've heard of it, yeah.
starring Randall Park and Ali Wong, but he apparently plays himself, and it's amazing. And someone was telling me about it today when I told him we were doing a pod on cameos. And I've seen it on several of the lists, and I've never seen this. So I feel like I should watch it. I was hoping maybe you'd tell me about Always Be My Maybe.
I will tell you about Keanu Reeves. He's good.
He seems delightful, doesn't he? He just seems like a delightful human being.
So weirdly, he was Buddha in what might be cultural appropriation now.
Wait, what? In what? What was this?
Was it Young Buddha? Was that the name of the movie? But like, so
Oh,
there was.
you're going way back.
He plays Siddhartha Gautama, and like it flashes back and forth between when Siddhartha is alive and like in the early 90s, and they're looking for who has the spirit of the Buddha.
Interesting.
Okay, that's a real thing.
Hey, this seems like a good spot to maybe take a break. When we come back, let's talk about like our absolute favorites, the things that really came to our mind for our personal favorite cameos. But let's go to the Geek Phone and let's go to Sam, our friend Sam, who debuted last week on the pod. We met Sam at Comic-Con in Kansas City. He's a great dude, and it's time for 3 Minutes with Sam. Cody, to the Geek Phone.
Okay.
We're on with Sam. Sam, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing just fine. The weather here has been very wacky these past few days. One moment it's hot and up in the 90s. Next thing you know, it starts raining and sleeting and everything. Welcome to Kansas City, if I can say that.
Oh yeah. The weather in this area tends to be like that. Sam, you joined us last week for the first time, and now we're coming back to you again. It's 3 Minutes with Sam, and this week we're talking about cameos. What are our favorite cameos of all time? And we figure we just come to you and ask you, what are your favorite cameos, and do you have any information about them?
Well, when it comes to cameos, I like cameos where it isn't just they pop in and out for something funny and happy and everything. I like ones where the cameo sort of moves the story along, gives it pushes it forward. I think Marvel films are a good, excellent example of this, especially the two recent ones. In Spider-Man No Way Home, they had these cameos or guest appearances, if you will, of the two original characters that played Spider-Man, and they were instrumental in moving the story along. It's kind of an example of how to do a meta-narrative right in a way that works and a way that moves the story along. Another example of this is in the most recent Doctor Strange film, in which Charles Xavier, played by the one and only Patrick Stewart, is in the film. Now, he was instrumental in the story as he helped in developing Doctor Strange's character in the film. Now, those are my favorite kinds of cameos because they aren't just ones that just pop up here and there just for the sake of, oh, look at that, it's the famous guy from da-da-da. But a one that actually keeps the story in momentum, doesn't just stop for the sake of showing the actor, but makes it work.
Absolutely.
That's my thoughts of my favorite cameos.
Yeah, it is. There is something unsatisfying. I mean, it's cool to see someone just like wander through a scene or something if they're a celebrity, but when they actually take part in the story, Yeah, I agree with you. I like it when there's someone there that's doing something. They've got a point in the story where they drive the character development a little bit along.
Yes, another example of this is Dodgeball. As silly of a film as it is, Chuck Norris, who makes a cameo in this, was instrumental in kind of moving the story forward when it came to the main characters in a way. So that is kind of a bit of a good example, but barely in a way.
So what's your favorite? What's your favorite cameo or cameos of all time?
Well, that is a tricky one. See, I've seen over 4,400 films in my lifetime, and plenty. Yes,
that's amazing.
Yes, and plenty of them have very funny and heartwarming, and sometimes, as I've said before, ones that move the story forward. I think the ones are my favorites so far are the ones that, like I've said, premiered in the Marvel films, because they seem to be the clearest examples of ones that fit into the storyline of the character. Those are my thoughts on it. I also liked ones such as the ones in Mel Brooks films, not because they moved the story forward, but because they were a nice, friendly parody of the films that were being shown in the film as well.
Mm-hmm.
A good example
Marvel, the Marvel movies in particular, Sam, have really contributed to what they call an Easter egg culture. So not only do they have all these cameos they drop in, but they drop in these Easter eggs too for your more hardcore comic book fans. And
yes,
Professor X is a good a good example of that whole scene in Doctor Strange.
Yes, he moves the story forward
in
a way, not just on there for ha ha ha, it isn't just like some purple lion passing by just for the sake of people saying, oh, look at that. But he moves the story forward and pushes it through.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Mel Brooks did. I'm trying to think of one. It was Spaceballs had a couple Planet of the Ape cameos.
Yes, they did. Yes, but oh dear, there goes the planet again.
Yeah. Well, all right, Sam, that was good stuff. Do you have anything else? Anything else you want to leave us with?
Well, like I said before, when it comes to cameos, sometimes it's funny, but sometimes it isn't. And sometimes people like Adam Sandler kind of use it to death to going, ha ha ha, look at these funny guys just walking by and they're famous. Da, 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 da. That doesn't, I think, work for me, as funny as it is. But I think another good example of a cameo was Always Be My Maybe, in which Keanu Reeves makes a sort of meta, self-indulgent appearance as himself.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because, like, Keanu, by all accounts, doesn't seem like to be a self-indulgent guy.
Yes, he plays sort of an egotistical version of himself in this film. A lot of MTV films also tend to have cameos in their films as well.
Okay,
but I think one of the best masters of on and off cameo is Alfred Hitchcock, in which he has practically made an appearance in practically every one of his films, but in a very subtle manner, very, very subtle manner, in a way.
Yeah.
That's how I think he makes his cameos work. He makes it very, very subtle.
Very good. Yeah. Peter Jackson inserted himself into the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Kind of like
as
that.
well as his children.
Mm-hmm. The director,
as well as his.
The director will insert himself into movies sometimes. That's fun stuff.
Yes, it is fun stuff. It is most interesting.
All right. Well, Sam, we appreciate you coming on, and we hope to talk to you again next week.
Yes, I hope to talk to you again next week as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
See you later.
See you later.
It's always fun talking to Sam. Sam gave us some of his favorite things about cameos and what cameos he liked. We were someday we're gonna like give you a pod where we're just the things we talk about in between, when we do stuff before we start recording, before we start talking again. Cody was going on. He said he doesn't really know who Chris Isaac is or why he was popular.
So I remember seeing advertisements as a kid for the Chris Isaac show. And like we didn't have HBO, so I don't know what it was about. And I only knew the song Wicked Love or
Wicked Game.
Wicked Game, yeah. And so
I described him as a more sultry Harry Connick.
yes. And then somehow it spiraled into Lyle Lovett.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how we got to Lyle Lovett out of there.
I blame Julia Roberts.
Okay, Julia Roberts and Chris Isaac both had famous cameos in the TV show Friends.
Bazinga.
But we'll get back to that because I wanted to save the TV for later. Let's talk about our favorite cameos in movies of all time.
Okay.
Do you want to go first?
So do you want me to list them all off? Go back and forth?
Let's just go back and forth.
Okay.
Give me one of your favorites.
Brad Pitt in Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
That was so hilarious.
You feel like in any Ryan Reynolds movie where he has a lot of creative control that this is just going to happen now.
Oh my goodness.
That was amazing. And I'm here for a Brad Pitt cameo, by the way.
Like invisible the whole movie until he's dead, and then boom, you see his face for a split second.
Yeah. What else did Brad Pitt recently cameo in? Did he cameo? Oh, no, it wasn't a cameo. He's in that movie with Sandra Bullock and what's his name?
Channing Tatum?
Channing Tatum, yeah.
Yeah.
So I went and saw that movie with my wife. I forgot to tell you.
It looked funny.
It's a good, popcorn movie. Like
Okay.
it's not cinematic brilliance.
Yeah.
But it's fun time. But Brad Pitt is in the commercials for the movie. And I don't look, I don't want to spoil anybody if they don't want to. So plug your ears for about 2 seconds, 5 seconds if you don't want to be spoiled. But let's just say Brad Pitt's not in the movie that long. And it's sort of abrupt. Like it takes you by surprise. Which it's just funny because he's in a lot of the marketing for the film.
Yeah.
And the abruptness for how he's taken out of the movie, it'll shock you when you see it. You're like, oh! So, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a great cameo guy.
More Brad Pitt.
And he eats. Like, what's the Brad Pitt thing in the eating thing? He's always eating.
Robert Downey Jr. does it too.
Does he?
Yeah, because like you'll notice Tony Stark always has something that he's reaching for and is eating.
Yeah.
He hid snacks all over the Avengers movies.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Bob Barker in Happy Gilmore. In my opinion, one of the all-time greats of cameo appearances in a movie. I love a cameo appearance that's subversive when they play themselves, but it's like something completely so around the bend that it takes you by surprise. And Bob Barker, who is for years the host of a game show called The Price is Right on during the day. All our grandmas watched it. Mm-hmm. And he's like an advocate for the humane societies across the United States. He's just such a nice old guy. He's the guy your grandmas loved. Like, oh, it's Bob. And to see him beating the nerd out of Adam Sandler in Happy Gilmore and then using the explicative at the end of it, it's just the cherry on top.
Oh, yeah. That one, I had not put it on my list, but it would be on my list.
It's such a wonderful cameo. Wonderful cameo. Adam Sandler is a fan of the cameos, as Sam talked about a little
Yes.
bit. And yeah, a lot of cameos in Adam Sandler movies. What Sam said, though, may be true too, is like some people use the cameo so much that it gets a little tiring, especially when it's their guys, like they become oh, it's a Sandler movie, so I'm probably going to see this guy. And eventually, Sandler just makes an entire movie or two called Grown Ups, where just all his friends are in it.
Yeah.
So
pretty much like every 2 out of 3 Adam Sandler movies now are like Adam Sandler wanted to go on vacation.
But why not?
Adam Sandler wanted to go on vacation with his friends. Okay, serious movie. Back to Adam Sandler vacation.
Yeah. Here's the thing about Grown Ups, and even Grown Ups 2. They're not good movies, but I didn't mind watching them.
Yeah.
I had fun. That's all I can say about those kind of Sandler movies. It's not like when he came out with Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, there was nothing like that. I mean, it was just so out there and different. Sandler, it was so like this. Sandler had this like absurdist comedy it was just so different, and we just loved it immediately. Like, I don't remember how old I was when Billy Madison came out. I'm probably around 17 or 18. Oh man, it was so stinking good.
Yeah. You can't list Chris Farley as a cameo in that one.
I don't know. He's not in it a ton. He's just the bus driver.
But then, like, he's there with the penguin at the pool. And
Yeah, but I still think it's a cameo. He's not really a part of the story. He's just kind of in the back. He's got one of the best lines that
helps
most
them
people
study.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he might be a character in the movie. He might be a full-fledged character. He does have one of the best lines in that movie that I still do with my kids to this day. Like when we're getting in the van, like, everybody on the bus, great, grand, wonderful. And then I get in the van. I'm like, no yelling on the bus. I just love that line because he's yelling.
Yes,
It's funny.
it is. For me, my next one will be, and it works perfectly in this movie because it is kind of absurdist, this cameo, and it goes perfectly with the character that this person's portraying. But it would be a one Matthew Damon in Thor Ragnarok.
Matt Damon
Is cameoing it up all the time.
He can make a claim for king of cameos. He's up there with Brad Pitt.
Yes. But him playing Loki in the play while Loki is being Odin, watching it.
That's so fantastic. Like, I recently rewatched Ragnarok, and that movie's so good. It is so good.
So if you ask me what a comic book movie should look like and act like, I think I go with Ragnarok as my go-to, with the exception of Batman has to be dark. So, yeah.
I think if Matt Damon and Sam Neill show up as the actors who played Loki and Odin in the next Thor movie, I will just go bonkers. That would be so amazing.
And Luke Hemsworth. It was
That's right. It was Luke Hemsworth.
as Thor.
Amazing cameos.
The whole movie had some great cameos.
Yeah. I'm going to go back, much to the chagrin of Sam, who was not here for the Adam Sandler cameos, as you heard. I'm going to go back to another Sandler movie. I'm going to go with The Wedding Singer and Billy Idol,
Oh, yeah.
who shows up in the ultimate scene, the climactic scene of The Wedding Singer when he wins back Drew Barrymore. And Billy Idol plays a big part in that scene. And again, it's the referral to someone as their first and last name. Get out of my way, Billy Idol.
Basically, if your name's Billy and they refer to your whole name, Dave's a fan.
Yeah.
Billy Zane, Billy Idol.
It's just funny. It's
Billy
funny.
Eyelash.
Okay, it's funny when a celebrity makes a cameo as themselves and a character refers to them as their full name. Get out of my way, Billy Idol. It's just, that's right, Billy Zane. It's just it hits me in all the right humor spots.
So I'm going to list one that's not on my list, but Jackson, who was on the podcast last week, mentioned this as one of his favorites, and that would be Richard Dreyfuss playing his character from Jaws in the movie Piranha.
Oh, wow. That is a deep old cut.
It is.
And I had completely forgotten about that, but that's absolutely right.
So I thought I'd give Jackson a shout out there.
Piranha's weird because Piranha like tries to ride the coattails of Jaws. Mm-hmm. And like Piranha legit had me thinking that like if you dipped a toe in the Amazon River, your foot would be gone. Like I really thought that's how piranha were. And I remember like when I came across someone who had one as a pet, like in a fish tank, I was like, oh, don't stick your hand in there, bro. And they're like, yeah, that's not really how it works.
It's exactly how it works.
That was I knew nothing about piranha or the Amazon. I just, that's all I had to go on was that movie.
So for my next one, I will say this is a weird random one, but since we are both pastors, I will reference this movie. Monty Python's Life of Brian has a Beatle in it by the name of George Harrison.
Wow.
And so if you've never seen Monty Python's Life of Brian, essentially they're following the life of Jesus, but there's a guy named Brian who just happens to be at all these key events, and a group of people start following him. And so Jesus is saying like, blessed are the peacemakers, and they're like, did he just say blessed are the cheesemakers? And then it's like, well, yes, he did, but I think it's not just cheesemakers. I think it's all dairy personnel. So
all dairy personnel.
Yeah,
Man, they don't make them like Monty Python anymore.
So yes, I'm here for most things Monty Python, even though we disagree on religious outcomes, I guess, but that's neither here nor there.
Not all the Monty Python guys were. Some of the Monty Python guys are Christians.
Yes.
Yeah.
But John Cleese.
No,
very
not John Cleese.
Outspoken about his.
Not old John.
And he might be my favorite, to be honest. I'm not even going to lie.
Some of my favorite cameos happened in Kevin Smith movies.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith is a guy who back in the 90s comes out with a movie called Clerks. And it's all black and white. And this is like the beginning of the indie renaissance, right? Where people start paying attention to indie movies. Like it was, if it wasn't from a big studio before this time, nobody cared. But Kevin Smith is a part of this rise with this movie Clerks that hits me in a sweet spot because it's about these two guys who work at a convenience store and a video store. That's their job. And I worked at a convenience store and a video store at the time. I had two jobs. That's where I worked. And so it just hit me in these sweet spots. Anyways, because of his rise in popularity as this indie director who's kind of mentioned, he's like mentioned in the same breath as like Paul Thomas Anderson, who got his start in this same sort of genre at the time, these indie movies, who's now a big director. He actually is kind of instrumental in getting Good Will Hunting made.
Yeah.
And he becomes friends with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and starts a run of movies starring them and them appearing in his movies. So like he has these two characters, Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah.
And like one of the movies, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, is just a movie filled with cameos. It's just tons of cameos. George Carlin, Carrie Fisher, and of course Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, who just appeared as cameos in a lot of his movies. But like they break the fourth wall in this movie together because there's this one segment where they go see Ben Affleck, who's playing a character who's previously appeared in Kevin Smith's movies. And his character actually says like a movie about Jay and Silent Bob. Who would see that? And then they all look at the screen. They look at the camera as if they're looking at the audience. It's just funny. Hey, if you can give me a cameo and a breaking of the fourth wall, totally here for that.
Would you say in Dogma, Alanis Morissette is a cameo?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I'm here for all things Atlantis.
Dogma. This is going to sound weird because I'm a pastor, but I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea of Dogma being a funny movie. And interesting, and it has something to say because it's not. At the end of the day, that movie's so a lot of people, especially Catholics, got upset when that movie came out. And that movie came out before I was saved. Obviously, way before I was in ministry. But a lot of Catholic people had a problem with Dogma. But at the end of the day, that movie's not a critique on faith; it's a critique on religion,
Organized religion, especially,
which is kind of like the point of the entire Bible, is a critique on religion.
At least significant chunks of
Maybe
Jesus' ministry.
Religion is not the word. Religiosity. How about that?
Yeah.
That's a better word.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just want to know because I'm all here for cameo Alanis Morissette.
Yeah. She plays God in the
Yeah.
movie. Who, it's a movie.
It is.
If you take it as fiction, you don't have to be offended by the depiction of God. But God can show up in whatever form he wants. So I'm not super opposed to it.
My next one would be Donald Glover in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Donald Glover is just delightful anytime he shows up.
He is. And with him being a comic book guy and was supposed to be writing a series and then it got scrapped and yeah, so I'm all here for Donald Glover, anything nerdy.
Well, and the cool thing about a cameo in the MCU is he's a cameo and an Easter egg.
He is.
Because he's an actual character that shows up in Miles Morales' story. He's Miles Morales' uncle.
Yeah, into the Spider-Verse or whatever that one was called. Yeah,
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I'm here for cameos like that. I talked about Neil Patrick Harris, Thomas Cruise in Tropic Thunder. Let's talk about, so we've talked a lot about cameos where they play themselves. Let's talk about cameos where they don't play themselves. They show up, they play a different character. Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder may be one of the most legendary cameos. Like the way it's told, he actually lobbies to play this part. The way it's told now. And it's so off the wall bonkers. I remember the first time I saw it. Actually, I think I've only seen that movie once. The one time I've seen it.
Oh, I've seen it like 3 or 4 times.
It's hard to believe it's Tom Cruise. It's so off the wall. I didn't believe it at first that it was Tom Cruise, but it is. It's Tom Cruise. It's an amazing cameo. He plays like a Hollywood type, but a very bad one. And that cameo is insane. It's always nice when there's just a different energy when they want to do the cameo. We've all seen the cameos where they're just going through the motions. They're getting paid, They're doing a favor.
Like Donald Trump in Home Alone 2.
Yeah. Like there's the cameo where they're just doing a favor. They're like, all right. But then there's like, say what you want about Tom Cruise. I'm not a huge Tom Cruise guy. But his cameo in Tropic Thunder, you can tell he's into it and wanted to do it, and it shows. Like, there's effort.
Yeah, that one is a good one. Like a random off-the-wall one that works perfectly for the movie is Michael Jackson in Men in Black 2.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
It works perfectly.
It does. It does. I mean, I hadn't thought about that one.
Although we haven't mentioned, and I was saving it for the end, but like there is maybe the greatest run of cameoing ever that we haven't mentioned, and that would be Stan Lee.
Yes. Now, as far as like longitude. Or, how long how many cameos he's done. So Stan Lee appears in so many Marvel movies. Like even the ones before the MCU. He would show up occasionally in these cameo roles in Marvel movies. Man, and it's so now that he's gone.
I think I saw a thing that's
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was just about to explain the emotionality of it, and now that he's gone, like you can go back and watch these movies, and to understand that these characters we love so much, they all come from him and a couple other guys that started Marvel Comics, and so like, but a lot of them come from him in particular, and so like, there's this love I have for Stan Lee. You brought that up. That's actually like this week current news. They made a deal with like, I guess his estate to continue using him as cameos in future Marvel movies. I don't know if that means CGI, I guess. Are you here for that? Because I'm kind of not.
I mean, I kind of wonder if maybe it'll be like that Alfred Hitchcock example of, oh, it's a silhouette in the neon light, or it's a poster or something.
Yeah, okay, I'm here for that. Please don't CGI Stan Lee.
Yeah. Although my favorite might be when he was like a FedEx driver and he's like Tony Stank.
Tony Stank? Tony Stank? Yeah, he's right here. This is Tony Stank. Oh, man. I miss Stan Lee. Yeah, please do not CGI Stan Lee into future Marvel movies. Make him like a picture on the wall.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like a statue in the background of Stan Lee. That would be amazing tribute, but don't CGI.
I wonder if maybe they also filmed a bunch of other ones that just didn't make the cut.
Well, that might be too. I could see that. Okay. Is it my turn?
Yeah, because I'm out.
Oh, I have one more. I'm surprised you didn't say it because you're a big fan. But John Candy in Home Alone.
Okay, so that is the greatest Home Alone cameo. I did mention the Don Trump, but oh my goodness. So, like, the amount of improvisation from John Candy in this film, and literally when he's talking about leaving his son at the funeral home. It is the funniest scene in the whole movie, and it's like dark humor. No one else is laughing whenever I'm watching this except for me, because I'm like, this is brilliant. Just brilliant. And I'm amazed that the mom just keeps playing on with it, because I would have broke character.
Yeah, when you hear the story of how that cameo came about too, John Candy was really amazing. Just amazing. That was all unscripted, yes?
Yeah.
He just went with it. And polka, polka, polka. Pennsylvania polka. John Candy.
The Kenosha Kickers.
The Kenosha Kickers, yeah. That whole scene. You can't say it makes that movie because there's so much good things about that movie to talk about, Home Alone. But man, if that scene's not in it, I don't know if it's quite so iconic.
Yeah, John Candy definitely adds a plethora of greatness to the movie. I mean, you would still have a good movie with just the wet bandits, but John Candy's interaction with the mom definitely adds some character development for her, I feel. And like the amount of torture she goes through just to make it back to Kevin, riding with this group of polka singers or performers. So
I would be remiss if I didn't mention the movie Blues Brothers, the Blues Brothers. That has a ton of music and blues cameos. As a kid, it's one of the first movies I remember where I recognize that these are cameos. I remember recognizing B.B. King. Like my music tastes, even as a young person, were pretty eclectic. I liked a whole bunch of different kinds of music, and I remember seeing Blues Brothers and just thinking how cool it was that all these people were in that movie. Maybe the coolest cameo in that movie is Ray Charles, who is the proprietor of Ray's emporium. It's like a pawn shop basically, and he famously shoots a gun near a kid who's trying to rob him. Breaks my heart to see him go so bad so young. It's Like, and then of course there's a musical number, right, where he sings along with the Blues Brothers, and that cameo in particular is one I just really remember, like one of the first cameos I remember.
So random cameo that I just remembered, and it ties back to our lobby time. So JJ from Good Times, Jimmy Walker, he is in Airplane. Like he is just there for a brief second, cleaning like the windshield, and then like gets knocked off. And
comedy movies like are really a gold mine of cameos. Mm-hmm. It's really a great place to drop in cameos. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is an Airplane.
Yes.
Isn't he a pilot?
Yep.
He's so tall. Like that would be a terrible job for him. But yeah, comedies always usually, even your more recent comedies here in the last 20 years, Sean William Scott, the guy from the American Pie movies, has a great cameo in Old School as a dude with a mullet who's like an animal wrangler. When Will Ferrell shoots himself with like the tranquilizer dart, which I will still to this day say is one of the funniest comedic scenes I've ever seen. I thought I was going to die in the movie theater during that scene. Everything about that is so pitch. But when he shoots himself in the dark, like, oh, is this bad? Is this bad? So perfect. It's so perfect. I just laugh uncontrollably every time I see that.
Yeah. Fletch has some cameos, especially with the Lakers and Chick Hearn.
Mm-hmm. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in that one as well.
Yep.
Yeah, Fletch. Oh, man. Yeah, comedies just have them all. They seem to have a lot of cameos.
Sharknado
is...
all the Sharknadoes. I'm here for them all. Give me Gary Busey and David Hasselhoff cameos. Give me just random like 70s and 80s TV actors that you thought were dead but are still alive.
Subcategory, a lot of comedies have cameos. What about people who have repeated cameos where they cameo as themselves in many different things? So like a guy that comes to mind is James Van Der Beek.
Oh yeah.
Who like never as popular as he was in the peak Dawson's Creek days.
Yeah.
But has like literally made almost a second career out of showing up in various TV shows and movies as an older middle-aged James Van Der Beek who's usually down on his luck, famously in How I Met Your Mother. No. Wasn't How I Met Your Mother. He plays an actual character in that. There's something where he shows up as like James Van Der Beek in something.
Was it New Girl?
It might be.
I feel like there's a series that like someone's like, shut up, James Van Der Beek.
But that brings up like the TV cameos. There's lots of TV shows that have great cameos. Will Wheaton on The Big Bang Theory is a famous one. I believe that's a repeat cameo. I think he shows up more than once. Friends is known for their cameos. In fact, it becomes kind of a shtick for the TV show Friends that they would have a show after the Super Bowl. Because back then, NBC had the Super Bowl for a number of years in a row, I think. And they would have a show after the Super Bowl was over, and it would always be packed with cameos. There's a famous one with Julia Roberts. But there's always people, Sean Penn. But Sean Penn's on like that's a story arc. He's on it for multiple episodes. Brad Pitt, another guy who cameos a lot. He cameos. That may be one of the funniest on TV cameos because Brad Pitt is a former high school classmate of Rachel, Jennifer Aniston's character, and he had a crush on Jennifer Aniston, but he was larger. He was overweight, and he comes back now into their lives as like having lost a lot of weight and looking like Brad Pitt, but he's like super immature and holds this grudge. That's a hilarious episode. I mean, not so funny when you factor in that him and Jennifer Aniston were like together. And then that famously ends very poorly for Jennifer.
It does.
But if you don't think about that, it's an awesome cameo.
Taylor Swift does make an appearance in New Girl at the wedding that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot in New Girl.
Yeah, they do have a lot of cameos. Jamie Lee Curtis is Zoe Deschanel's mom.
Yep. Chappelle Show
Chappelle
also
Show
has a lot of
yes.
like high profile cameos, not least of which is Wayne Brady, who's like an alternate. Again, a chance to play himself, but like an alternate version of himself.
So, like, Wayne Brady was legitimately offended when Paul Mooney on the Chappelle Show said that Wayne Brady makes Brian Gumbel look like Malcolm X. And so he calls up Chappelle and, like, they're on speakerphone and they're like, oh, dude, we love you. Like, we got to do something together. We'll make it right. And they come up with the Wayne Brady, like, takes over the show and hangs out with Chappelle. And, brilliant.
Basically, it's like he's channeling Denzel in Training Day in this whole skit on Chappelle Show. And it's just so funny because it's Wayne Brady. Like, I know that he gets upset because that guy says that, but in a lot of ways it's just true. You knew him as the guy whose line is it anyway? He's like, he just seems so squeaky clean.
Yes.
You know, like he's walking old ladies across the street in his spare time. And so to see him do the heel turn on Chappelle's Show, it was just comedic gold.
House had some high profile cameos, like Dave Matthews.
Yeah, I forgot about that. As Patience.
Yeah.
He gets a lot of cameos as Patience. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a patient.
ER kind of did that a lot too.
Yeah.
Usually it's tearjerker episodes. Like, oh man, it's Ray Liotta. He's going to die horribly in this episode. I just know it. I can't watch this episode, ER. You're going to kill Ray Liotta right in front of our eyes.
How dare you?
How dare you?
Oh, I would say that Sam Elliott in Justified, but it's a story arc in the last season because he's there for a couple episodes. But
Yeah.
I mean, he is perfect in that series.
I did not put a lot of thought into TV cameos. So, I mean, I just know there's more we're missing. How I Met Your Mother was full of them. A lot of them had to do with Robin's character and her former Canadianness.
Yeah.
Alan Thicke is in a couple episodes. James Vanderbeek playing a character like an old boyfriend shows up on a few episodes of How I Met Your Mother. It's just some great cameos in that show.
So is Moby actually in the episode where they're like, that guy looks like Moby?
I think he shows up near the end of the episode and they don't recognize him.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the joke.
Okay, so Moby made an appearance, and you're welcome for me remembering Moby.
It's funny, like how cameos, and this will be the last thing we talk about because we need to wrap up, but it's funny how cameos in comedies just work and how actually they can be good career moves. Let's take Mike Tyson, for instance, in The Hangover.
Oh, yeah.
Like Mike Tyson, when he appears in The Hangover, is still seen as sort of a pariah. Like the last we hear of Tyson, he's biting off Evander Holyfield's ear. He's kind of unceremoniously forgotten about in boxing after just being everything about boxing. He just kind of gets cast aside as like, oh, this guy's troubled and he's, got a face tattoo. And then he shows up in The Hangover and he's so funny and charming. Like he like shuts everyone up to do the drum solo in Phil Collins's
In the
air tonight. Yeah. Which we've all done when we were alone in a car. And it's just so stinking charming. And I think Mike Tyson actually gets like kind of a second wind of like a celebrity status and shows up in other things because of that cameo. And I think like, well, for instance, I brought up Neil Patrick Harris. Now, Neil Patrick Harris was doing things on Broadway and was a successful guy, but he wasn't really on TV anymore. And that cameo in
Harold and Kumar
Go to White Castle really, I think, gets him the role because he's basically playing that guy in Barney Stinson in How I Met Your Mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so cameos on comedies, especially for guys who haven't been able to show that, like if they're actors, be able to show that range. Bruce Willis. So Bruce Willis has a multi-episode arc on Friends, which again, it's not really a cameo, but sometimes these are just, I think, good career moves because Bruce Willis gets his start. He gets big on a show called Moonlighting, which is like a romantic comedy kind of will they, won't they kind of show with him and Sybil Shepherd back in the day. Then he hits it big with Die Hard, goes into movies. He's an action star, but then he comes back and does this little couple episode run on Friends, and he gets to do comedy again. And you're just like, Bruce Willis is all right. I like Bruce Willis. And I just think it can be a good career move for a lot of these guys.
I do know that it seems like, especially within like the more comedic superhero movies, you get a lot of these cameos, especially James Gunn. He'll pull in a bunch of people. It's like, oh, there's Sylvester Stallone. Oh, there's Sylvester Stallone as a shark. And I mean, you get some funny ones. Like Star Wars brings in a lot of cameos and you don't know it. Like Daniel Craig was a stormtrooper and like you only hear him say like 3 words.
Jason Sudeikis is a stormtrooper in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
One I would forget because it does seem like a lot of these cameos are guys. One that's a female is Emma Watson in This Is the End.
Oh yeah.
A hilarious cameo. In fact, that was a movie that I didn't enjoy all that much. I didn't think it was all that great, but her cameo in it, where she plays herself, is amazing. Just a hilarious cameo.
Evidently, it was kind of a rough filming for her.
Yeah. Maybe not the best situation.
Yeah.
But let's not get it. That's a whole nother episode. Anything else we should mention? What did we miss? What cameos did we miss? You tell us.
A ton.
Yeah, we missed. I know we missed a ton. Tell us any cameos that you love that we missed. Comment below when we post this episode onto our social media. Just comment below. Tell us your favorite cameos. Tell us ones you agree on us with. Tell us ones you disagree. What are your favorite kinds of cameos? We're here for it. We didn't get to spend much time. We didn't put a lot of thought into the TV cameos. So some of you may have a lot of TV cameos. I feel like we missed a bunch of those. So just let us know. Thank you so much for listening. If you would, please subscribe to the podcast. Give us a good review, like rate us. It helps us if you give us that nice 5-star rating. And it just helps people when they're checking out the podcast. They go, oh, this is highly rated. This is something I want to listen to. And if you give us a review, people do read those reviews.
Yes.
So, I mean, I know I do. When I'm checking out a podcast, I'll read some of the reviews. And if those reviews aren't wasted, go ahead and leave us a glowing review if you like us. That would help us out too. And follow us on the social medias, Facebook, Twitter. Thank you so much for checking us out. We'll be back next week with something new to talk about in the world of pop culture. We'll see you next time.
See you in the next Pop Culture Pastor.